Hi guys, it's me, Arden Lee. I'm hopping on to make a video. I want to talk in this video a little bit about the nature of coaching work. Not every coach is for every person, obviously. There are going to be certain energetic compatibilities that need to be in place. But more relevant to what I want to speak about today is that for most coaches, most coaches who are good at what they do, there are certain prerequisites that they have that they recommend or enforce that people have in place before beginning their coaching work. So for example, I spoke to a business coach recently who asks that the people who sign up for her work already have a business established, already have some clients, and who are making maybe a couple of thousand a month. And because she specializes in people who are at this place in their business development, she can use a laser focus to get them to the next step. If she were working with everyone from someone who just had an idea in their head to someone who already has a 7-figure company, then her coaching work would not be as effective because she wouldn't be able to hone in on that niche of people that she's really geared toward helping. With my work in repatterning and in working with people regarding their educating people on their belief systems, how those beliefs form, how their trauma imprints impact them, how their habits form, how their experiences shape them, and how they can use that understanding to backwards engineer their results to create the lives that they want. Of course, I believe that everyone would benefit from that. But there is one really important thing that you need in order for your coaching work in this vein to be effective, and that is that you need to want to get better. You need to want to be happier. You need to want to feel well. You need to want to put in the work to create the life that you want. And you need to follow those instructions. Now, naturally, I don't expect blind obedience from my clients. It's not something I would want, even if they offered it. I do expect a certain suspension of disbelief and suspension of judgment because, of course, we don't really know how something is going to work until we've tried it. Of course, if I suggest something and it brings up a bad feeling, then of course I want to know about that. And perhaps what we can do is we can break those things into smaller chunks, tinier baby steps, or we can find an alternate solution. Perhaps there's something about doing XYZ thing that I prescribed that reminds them of a bad memory in a way that's personal. And then of course, we'll find a different thing to achieve the same solution. So I'm not speaking about just going against your own internal compass and blindly following what someone says. I think it's pretty clear based on what I teach and based on my own history that I don't recommend that. It's always, always, always about our discernment. But you have to want to choose a way toward health and happiness. And you have to be willing to follow the steps that are prescribed. That sounds obvious. But there's a lot of times that we are caught so much in our pain bodies that maybe we're like those people who have just had the idea for the business. We haven't brought in any clients yet. And we're not at the place where that business coach's coaching is applicable to us. And when this happens, when I encounter clients who are so much in their pain bodies that they are either unwilling or unable, and usually it's a mixture of both, right? Unwilling and unable are very close friends when it comes to things like addictive patterns that feed a pain body, right? A pain body in itself can be addictive. If we are unwilling and or unable to work toward taking basic steps toward progress, if we are unable to follow the recommendations that are given, then my coaching work probably won't help. And in cases like those, I have an energy worker that I myself see, whom I trust, whom I recommend. And I refer to people who feel so stuck in their emotions that they can't move forward. I'm sure that the business coach I mentioned probably has someone who she also recommends people go to if they haven't started their business yet. I don't want to place judgment upon being in a pain cycle, because I've been stuck in those pain cycles too. And I understand how miserable it is. And I'm sure that it can even manifest itself in ways that are far worse than I've experienced. Even though I feel like I've experienced it pretty badly. I'm sure there's always ways it can be worse. And the reason I don't judge that is not for any moral high ground, but it's simply because it's not effective. Judgment doesn't serve any more than the pain cycle itself serves. But let's be honest, it doesn't serve. And when you're looking to move forward, to break that cycle, and at some point that cycle needs to break. So if someone is saying to me, help me break the pain cycle, I can help. If they're at a point where they are willing and able to take the steps that are recommended. And sometimes the step that is recommended is I refer them to someone else. But I want to make a point here in that it's important for us to understand the nature of our relationships with our facilitators. I've been in this place too. I actually once had a pretty big epiphany that when I was on my own journey of healing, it came to me pretty strongly, and I realized that I had been handing my agency over to my coach and just being like, I don't know what to do, fix me. I just know that I'm supposed to work with you, and I don't know, solve this. Because this was before I gained enough knowledge to be able to see my own patterns and to know what needed to change. And I actually wrote her a note of apology for giving my power away to her by showing up and expecting her to know exactly what I needed, when it's really up to me to know best how to utilize her services. And so from now on, when I see her, I'll give her an idea of what's going on. I'll let her certainly make her own assessments, because she's quite wise and she generally picks up on things that are quite useful. And But overall, I will get clear on the intention of the session and what it is that I need her to do. And what I want to invite everyone who's watching this now to be able to do is that when you're working with a facilitator, the way to best help them help you is to get clear on your intention and what you need. Because there are instances in which someone can be so in tune with the pain body, so associated with the pain body, that they will contact their facilitator as a reason to keep playing it out. And essentially, that is another manifestation of codependence and addiction. Only now, instead of doing it with whatever in their lives they were doing it with, they're now taking it to the facilitator to continue playing out that same story. And this is addictive behavior. And addictive behavior is not beyond solution. As we know from addiction research and from successful drug policy, pretending that people are beyond solution is certainly not helpful to them. But what is also true is that the only person who can make that decision to commit to their wellness is the person themselves. And there are instances that exist where instead of reaching out to a facilitator for help, what they're doing is reaching out to a facilitator in order to continue playing out the same story. And I understand that sometimes the pain body can be so great that it's hard to articulate how to ask for help. Sometimes we're throwing out a lifeline and asking, but we're throwing out, we're calling for help, but we're unwilling or unable, or both, to take the lifeline that's offered to us, right? For whatever reason, we're not getting on the lifeboat. And in those instances, there may be deeper levels of treatment that is needed. And I think it's wise for coaches in particular to know the scope of their work and who they can help and who they can't help. It's not that those people are beyond help. It's maybe that they need a different kind of program. There are inpatient trauma programs. There are rehabs. There are more intensive levels of treatment than typical coaching offers. And sometimes that's what's called for in the situation. If that doesn't sound like something that we want to do, if our intention is to stick with coaching work, then the best way to utilize a relationship with a facilitator is to know the intention of what they're helping you with and to be willing to follow them. If you're walking into a rehab facility, for example, but what you want is for them to give you more alcohol, then that's not going to work out. It's not fair to you, and it's not fair to the facility. Sometimes, of course, the intention for something as intensive like that might be, I'm checking myself in because I know I want alcohol. I know I'm going to beg for it. And I need to spend 30 days in a place where I literally can't get to it. And in that case, that's why there are inpatient programs with supervision, so that someone can be monitored. But if a coaching relationship is something that you're seeking, it's helpful to bear in mind that coaching only works if you follow it. And I don't feel in integrity taking someone's money and watching them use that time and space in a way that's not actually helping them. There may be coaches out there who will do that. I don't feel in alignment with that. It doesn't feel good to me. It makes me feel like both me and the client are exploiting one another. So if you're someone who's seeking coaching work, my invitation to you is to ask yourself, are you ready to follow the steps that your coach is giving you in good faith? Are you ready to implement the suggestions made to you and see how it goes and follow that path toward health and wellness? Or are you looking for another person to rebel against? Are you looking for another person to continue to play out your harmful narrative with? It puts me in a difficult position as a coach during the times that this happens. And they've been pretty few and far between, thankfully. When they do happen, it's always a reminder to me to get clearer, because naturally I'm responsible for the boundaries of my container. But the difficult position that it puts one in as a coach is essentially, do I allow this person to continue playing out that narrative and to use my time to do that in a way that I'm watching continue to hurt them? Do I use this time to keep trying to direct them back to the path, which involves repeating oneself over and over? Or do I refuse to take the session because I know that they're already not following the steps being given in good faith? And because at that point, it feels exploitative. So my invitation is, if you are doing coaching work, traditional coaching work that is typically remote, and does not involve an inpatient facility, and does not involve someone having to stop you from your destructive behavior, having to rein you in from the impulses that you feel you cannot control at the time, that maybe you genuinely cannot control, because again, feeling that you can't control something is pretty close in lived experience and felt experience to actually not being able to control something. If that's what you need, then you likely need something more intensive than coaching, especially phone and text coaching. If you're willing to feel better and to get out of the pain body, then there are remote energy workers. And again, I have someone that I love giving referrals for when this is the case. If it's really just about moving a feeling that is stubborn and you want that feeling to go, then I absolutely have people on my list who are great with that kind of work. But if you're working with a coach, you need to be able to move forward past your stories and be willing to try something different. And you need to be in a place where you are willing and able to do that. Otherwise, that relationship is not fair to you and not fair to that practitioner. And for me as a practitioner, I don't feel in integrity continuing that. And for me to be in my integrity, I make my recommendations as best as possible. I make my referrals. But ultimately, I cannot do the work for someone. I cannot do the work for you. I can help you with it. I can talk you through it. I can break it down into small chunks if that's what you need. I can be explicit. I can explain how it works. But I can't do it for you. So this is something to think about when entering a coaching relationship. What is your intention? What is the result that you want? And are you willing to take the steps necessary to do it? Because if your story is more important to you than your goal, then your story will continue to be more important to you than your goal. And the story is going to be where your strength goes. And your goal is going to receive none of that energy and bandwidth. So it's important for us to think about how we utilize our coaching relationships. It's a sort of meta coaching in a way. But I wanted to take this opportunity to bring some more awareness to that, because I think it's important that we discuss and talk about. And I certainly know that for me, my relationships with my coaches have gotten better when I am clear on my intention and I know what I want them to help me with. So I absolutely invite you to get clear on that intention and to know what your coaches are helping you with too, and to trust them. Choose coaches you trust, yes, and then trust them enough to give it a shot. Otherwise, coaching only works if you do it. Thank you guys. I'll see you next time.